Gnomes and mermaids emerge when the earth is covered in humid vapors. Guard carefully the secrets of your precious wool, and generally confuse the hell out of ancient philosophers.
Because it's time to talk Tull to me?
Were you the ancient philosopher? Were you?
I was someone confused. At least. We'll say that much.
Welcome back, friends, to our wonderful podcast. I am Omen Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together, we are Feckless Moans.
And this is Talk Tull to Me.
An exploration of the fantastical properties of the mythological prog rock band Jethro Tull. Album by album, song by song, Nicodernus the Elder and Pope Omen III will discover and document such amazing creatures as the John Evan, a beast with the hands of a man and the body of a baby grand, the D. Palmer, who can drive sailors to madness with her seductive strings, the Martin Barr, who can only be caught by a virgin and will grant you 3 wishes, provided that all the wishes are to hear a sick guitar riff. And most mysterious of all, the Andersonia ianae, which if caught under a full moon, the juice of which, rubbed upon your skin, will make you impervious to the cruel jabs and jibes of Rolling Stone magazine.
Wow, that was good.
Thanks, Nick.
That was good. I like it. I continue to be impressed.
I continue to aim to impress.
Well, it is a symbiotic relationship, and we both we both get out of it what we get out of it.
So, Nick, guess what?
Omen,
You guessed it.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
And it's time for another episode of Talk Tull to Me.
That's it. That's correct. We are actually recording on a Tuesday, so it's extra meta, multi-layered
Double Tull,
here.
Double Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
And, Nick, we have a fantastic and unique song to talk about.
That we do.
But first, we have some exciting business to cover.
Correct.
And before we get to that, it's been a little while. I think we should play a quick round of
What are you drinking?
Pass the cup of crimson wonder.
Nick, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Wegmans breakfast blend.
Ooh,
That's
of
all.
coffee, I assume.
Of heroin. Of coffee. Yep. And out of one of my favorite mugs, and just a little dash of honey, a little splash of half and half.
Nice.
It is lovely.
Sounds restorative.
Yeah, it is. We inherited Ray's mother's percolator coffee maker. That it's this. It looks like a camp setup, but you just plug it into the wall and it percolates up and over. It's basically like a drip kind of, but for some reason it just makes better coffee.
It's a flip.
It's a flip.
Flip drip.
Flip coffee maker, and it just makes
Great.
better coffee. I love the coffee out of it. Omen,
Nice. Yeah.
what are you drinking?
Hey, Nick. So I am drinking the reheated 5:30 a.m. coffee that I made for my wife, which is a Joffrey's Holiday Blend. If you're not familiar, Joffrey's is a coffee roaster in Tampa, Florida, which makes all of the coffee for the Disney parks in Florida. And it's quite good. It's got a little milk and that stuff that comes out of the trees, maple syrup in it. And I've got it in my 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea mug, and it's quite good.
That must have been a really tasty contract to land.
Tastier than the coffee.
Tastier than their coffee. Joffrey's, they're in their garage saying, "We just landed the Disney contract."
Come for the coffee, stay for the multi-year deal.
So what's the holiday blend? Has it got a little spice in there? A little clove, a little nutmeg, a little cinnamon?
No idea. I can't really taste it. Apparently, it's got notes of blueberry or something.
Someone once told me.
Yeah, it once gazed longingly at a blueberry, but the blueberry didn't return its glance.
No.
So, Nick,
Omen,
do we have any other business before we dive into the meat?
is that it? Just the meat?
The meat.
Okay. We will not be diving into the meat just yet. First, we have a pair of emails.
Oh.
Marley.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Marley.
Yeah.
Greatly
I've
appreciated.
left several snakes in the kitchen.
You've left several of them?
I left about half a dozen or so.
Just like to roam free?
They got out of the pan.
The pan? Oh, you were cooking. The solstice snakes? Is that what
Lunch will be ready in half an hour.
Okay, great. I'll try to wrap up with Omen as soon as possible. I appreciate it.
Back into the fricassee dish, Ellen.
I enjoy Marley's cuisine, I have to admit.
Yeah.
I do. So, thank you, Marley. So we have a pair of emails here from two previous writer-inners.
Your emails, sir.
First one, got Doc Savage writing in again. Thank you, Doc
Hey.
Savage. Good morning. Another bloody email, but you do keep saying how much you and Omen enjoy them. So it's our fault.
Yeah.
Outstanding as ever. Genuinely wish there were more hours in the day to cram more in. On the last bonus track from Stand Up, which was 17, you were asking about the word cake man. Do you remember cake
Oh,
man?
yeah.
Yeah. My paternal grandmother from the North Midlands used to use this word.
Really?
It means a flashy type who likes to prey on teenage girls by offering them all sorts of goodies and promising them the world.
Whoa!
I remember being taken to visit my grandmother in the mid to late 70s, and she would forever be going on about the girl who lived 2 doors down and whom she said was, quote, putting out for the cake man. End quote. Victim blaming was very much a 70s thing, although I have no idea whether that girl ate or even wanted any cake. As far as I can remember, I never saw her. My parents, quite buttoned-up people, refused to explain what a cake man was, which only made it more intriguing. But one day, left in my grandmother's care, I use the noun advisedly, she told me exactly what it meant. I would have been about 11, so you can imagine how I was dying to meet this girl. But as I say, I never did. As a slang expression, I think it has long since died out, a bit like the song, perhaps. This piece is poignant. I'm trying to imagine what I would have to say about a song like Salamander, a place filler if ever there was one for me.
Oh, doctor.
By the time I catch up to your time frame, you're probably going to be heartily sick of my communications. If brevity is the soul of wit, I'm about as funny as Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, aren't I?
Obscure reference.
No, I mean it's. Am I funny to you? Am I a clown? That
Okay.
scene, yeah.
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown. I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to and amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
But you can only blame yourselves. If you weren't so good and entertaining, I wouldn't bother. Do tell me to shut up, though. Merry Christmas, Doc Savage.
What a wonderful blend of information and self-loathing. So thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you, Doc Savage.
I've got the lyric here from 17.
Yeah.
It's from the second kind of mini stanza. We were 17 and the cake man was affecting you, moving you to greater things. In a lesser way you had to prove.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Great. I mean, I, for one, am certainly going to be reintroducing the term cake man into my vocabulary.
Yep. Are you going to be the cake man or just commenting on other?
That would be illegal and inappropriate.
I agree. I'm not sure how you plan on doing it.
Oh, I'm going to be like, let's use cake man in a sentence. Oh, I see you got a new Rolex. What are you trying to be? Some kind of a cake man, Jimmy?
What? I don't know what accent that was.
It wasn't an accent.
It
was
was
my normal voice.
No, it was something.
You better watch out, Jimmy, or your daughter's gonna get baked into a cake by the cake man.
That sounded like a threat, though. That's a third-rate Batman villain. Glad you like that one so much. I've got.
I just played an entire episode of Batman the Animated Series in my head based on what you just said.
Oh, yeah, I
It
can
was
see
wonderful.
it. Yeah. So I've got one more super quick email. We've got ourselves a jump start.
Yay!
From Johnny K. Johnny K, also previous writer inner, our friend from Australia.
Yeah.
He says he.
Wait a minute. Are you going to roll this thing? I'll do it right now.
Perfect. I don't need to put it in now. I discovered Tull in 1983, around age 17. Weirdly, my first album was Broadsword and the Beast. Soon after, it was Aqualung and Thick as a Brick. There was no turning back after that. I don't know if I would call that weirdly or oddly. 1983, Broadsword. Broadsword was brand new. That's not weird at all for you to
very current
to be introduced to Tull then. And it's a darn good album to fall in love with.
Fantastic.
And then to jump back to the big classics, Aqualung and Thick as a Brick, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be ashamed of that at all, Johnny K.
It sounds like Broadsword and the Beast was the bait, and Aqualung was the hook.
That's it. Snagged it, boated it, reeled it in.
Yes, boated it. Yes.
Other fishing terms. That is it for emails. Thank God. Omen, I think you have a little info on this song we're about to talk about, don't you?
Well, yes, I do, Nick. First of all, what song is that?
Oh my goodness. It is Salamander today, track 3 off of Too Old to Rock and Roll.
Indeed, it is. Give me 1 second to get my book.
So while you're pulling that up, a salamander is an amphibian of the order Urodela, which, as with many real creatures, has often been ascribed fantastic and often occult qualities by pre-modern authors like Pliny, Augustine, way back.
Pliny!
Your boy Pliny, I know. They were found in a lot of medieval bestiaries. The legendary salamander is often depicted as a typical salamander in like little lizardy shape, but it has been ascribed with the affinity of fire and is, when you're thinking of elemental creatures, this is a fire elemental.
Indeed. There were some legends that people would bring from the Levant, garments made of salamander wool, which would be impervious to fire. And, of course, they were actually made of asbestos. But fortunately, people didn't live long enough in those days to die of cancer.
No, they burned to death.
Yes. So I have here from the... Sorry, it's just awkward to get the book into the booth.
Get the booth into the book, then.
Oh, okay. Good idea. I have from the book A Passion Play, the story of Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull by Brian Raby. A couple of wonderful quotes. On Salamander, Ian Anderson says in this interview, I was just thinking about that song in bed the other night when I couldn't sleep. When I got back and I was a little jet-lagged, I was just thinking, what is there I've never played live on stage that would really be kind of a buzzy thing to play? And that song came to me. It employs one of those hybrid tunings. It's not really an open tuning, but it has a number of open strings, which allows you to play things you can't play on a regular concerty tuning. As an acoustic guitar piece, it's one of the rare occasions when Martin and I actually sat down in a studio and played live together during the piece. And it just occurred to me that that might be the one we resurrect as a live piece. The only problem is you don't have a lot of time in concert to fiddle about tuning up, because it isn't just a question of dropping the pitch of a couple of strings. If you do it on any guitar, you have to retune everything. You change the tension of the untouched strings by virtue of reducing the tension on the strings you are detuning. It's not a 10-second operation. You're looking at 30, 40 seconds to retune two guitars, and our band is not very well known for being able to cover each other's tunings. However, we will figure this one out.
And when was this written? How long ago was that That was while Martin was still touring with the band, so it was at least, 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, the book was published in 2013, so it was at
Okay.
least
Okay.
pre-2013.
Sure. Okay.
I do want to point out the obvious, Nick, here for a second, and who am I to disagree with Ian Anderson, but there is such a thing as two guitars, like more than one guitar that is already pre-tuned.
Unheard of.
It's just it's crazy, I know.
I mean, they swap out guitars all the time for a single song.
Yeah, that's what guitar techs are for.
Yeah.
Maybe that's Ian's famous Scottish frugality coming through.
It's a little too new school for him, I think.
Yeah. Martin Barr, on the other hand, says, "We've recorded that in Monte Carlo, and it's a very difficult piece of music. Ian suggested that we do it on tour, and I swear, I spent 2 whole days learning it, because it's an open tuning, and I didn't know which open tuning it was. It's not a normal one. It took me hours to work it out. I tried one tuning and then figured I'd got it wrong. I retuned the guitar again 3 or 4 times before getting it right, and then I could learn it. I do remember it was a very good piece of music. It was the best thing we ever did together. But at that time,
Wow.
It was just another song. It was difficult to play and sounded great."
Wow. High praise from both of them.
So this is really, Nick, I mean, each Tull song is unique, like a snowflake or a sheep, but or an orca whale,
Or a Fabergé egg.
or a Fabergé egg, lovingly handcrafted in Mother Russia. But
Fabergé orca.
this song is quite unique in that it appears to be the only song that was recorded through this process of Ian and Martin just sitting down together and banging it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just 2 acoustics. I mean, there is a little bit more in there, but
We'll get there. Yeah, there's some other instruments, but primarily it is the 2 acoustic guitars that are being played in tight formation.
so that was the live part. That was the part that they played together. I can't imagine there was also a little orchestra in the back playing the strings as well.
No, I don't think.
But that being said, that is, like you said, that is a notable piece that they sat together and played this live. They played it together.
Now, Nick, at the risk of milking the goat into not a bucket, let us actually have a listen to Salamander, so that we can then talk about these musical things.
We can. I'm caught up on the milking a goat into a bucket, but yeah.
Don't milk the goat before you've got the bucket set. Famous expression.
Is it?
And so,
Okay.
Nick, without further ado, let's have a listen to Salamander.
Boy, that is the fastest 3 minutes I've ever experienced in my entire life.
I genuinely love that song, Nick.
I do now. I didn't. It was a lot like Doc Savage said. It felt
A filler song.
slightly filler, slightly out of place.
I think that it does feel out of place just because it's so unique, but I think that whatever strange portal opened to allow this song to happen, if I had been there, I would have jammed a ballpoint pen into the door so that it wouldn't have closed completely, because I want more of that.
Yeah, this song leaked over from a mirror dimension, from like a neighboring dimension, and they got the crappy number 3 from that would have been on Too Old to Rock and Roll, and we got theirs.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we gave up hyper sausage for it, though.
Man, you know what? I long for the days of hyper sausage.
We'll never know.
I tell you what, yeah, it's a mystery, and sometimes mysteries are best left as that.
Sausage is a mystery, which is definitely best left alone. Well, let's talk about the music a little bit.
Sure.
As we've already talked about, that it's these 2 kind of dueling guitars, and as you pointed out, right off the bat, there is a little bit of D magic.
Yep, we get some very light strings here. We also get flute right off the start as well.
Which then fades out and comes back rather spectacularly toward the second half of the song.
Mm-hmm. At about 2 minutes, that last minute, we get into the bass and some tambourine.
Oh, yes. Yep, little tambourine.
And that's
Absolutely.
really it. That's it for instrumentation. And it feels, while those two acoustics are noodling back and forth, there's also bits and pieces of, like, the acoustic stepping out and going, bing, ba-doom, like, pulling forward a little bit with a little flair here and there, a little flourish.
It's a very interesting construction. So you have both of the guitars laying down this very intricate strumming pattern, which is so well synced up that I used to think, and I'm sure a casual listener might be forgiven for thinking that this is one guitar
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
being played by a person who had 10 hands with 6 fingers on each.
Or just Martin.
Or Martin Barr.
Yeah.
It is, in fact, these two guitars very well synced up, and they do, as you said, I think maybe trade off the melody bits, the runs, the sort of dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
There's some lovely note bending that goes on.
Yeah.
Have we talked about guitar string note bending before, Nick?
I'm sure we have. I'm sure that we have. If you want to
Shall we talk about it again?
I'm sure if you want to do a refresher, we can.
So, note bending, as I'm sure most of our listeners are fully aware, is on a guitar when you depress a string.
By talking about your mother.
That's right. You pluck that string and then you move the string laterally across the neck with your finger, which stretches the string, increasing the tension and thereby raising the tone. And that's how you get that kind of, there's an example of it. I'm sure you can drop it in here, Nick, where it's like,
Yeah.
It's the part.
Yeah. I'll put it in. That is mechanically that's the nitty gritty of that sound, that guitar sound. It's not just something that you can strum along and play. You have to do something beyond just forming the chords.
Precisely.
Yeah.
What else do we want to say musically about this song?
Like I said at the start, like, it is 3 minutes long, but it is so fast. It is so fast.
Yeah.
We've seen this a handful of times before at this point. It starts strong, it starts fast right out of the gate and just carries you through before you know what happened.
You know, there are a couple other sort of interesting points about this song to note, and that is that it is the first song so far on this album that does not end with a fade out.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
It just ends with dum dum dum.
Yeah. A double flute, no less, yeah.
Sounds like my college days.
We all experimented, it's fine. No judgments here.
The crispness of those guitars is wonderfully juxtaposed with the reverb that Ian has put on his own singing voice, which gives it that dreamy quality in the verse that he sings.
Okay. Didn't think about that. That's interesting.
Because the guitars, I mean, you can't, if you put any reverb on any of that, it would get so muddy.
Yes, you would lose a lot. You certainly would.
But the other instruments, I think maybe the strings and definitely the voice have a little bit of echo or reverb, and so you get that Salamander.
That was a ride.
Do you like my crooning, Nick?
Oh, it's nice. It's nice. I felt a little tingle
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. I won't even tell you where.
Yeah, it's in my cupboard. So, yeah, and I think that kind of, for me, that's it musically.
Yeah, I think it covers it. It's a lot like Crazed Institution, where it seems like there's a lot going on, but it's just because it has a cacophonous effect to it, and there's really not a lot. It's just stacked and built the right way to make it feel very meaty and in-depth.
I agree. I would say that it is a rich sound, meaning that, in a small quantity of sound, if we can say that, you have a lot transmitted. You have a lot of information.
Right, there's a lot going on, but when you break it down into its individual pieces, it's really quite simplified.
And that's what is so beautiful about really excellent musicianship, is that excellent musicians can take what is, on the face of it, simple
Mm-hmm.
and deliver something that is exquisite and elegant and unrepeatable and extremely difficult. Simple doesn't mean easy.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Nothing easy about a simple syrup.
Nothing is easy. That's what Nothing is Easy was actually about, is a simple syrup recipe.
Oh, sugar, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
The guitar playing on this song reminds me of a musical duo that I don't know if you're familiar with, Nick, but I think you would probably love, called Rodrigo y Gabriela.
Yeah, I know them.
You know,
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
and they have that kind of same, intensely dueling guitars, which are perfectly timed out to produce this incredible effect.
And it's just the two of them. They have a Spanish guitar sound,
Fetish sound.
but it has that kind of classical Spanish feel to it, and they're awesome. They're their own percussion, they're their own vocals. It's just the two playing guitar, and they're wonderful. They're really wonderful.
Yeah, according to rodgab.com, Rodrigo y Gabriela are a Mexican acoustic guitar duo whose music is influenced by a number of genres, including nuevo flamenco, rock, and heavy metal.
Perfect.
A lot of times people will say that they are the Jethro Tull of nuevo flamenco.
Very regular talking point in the rock circles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So shall we get into these two stanzas, these tiny little two stanzas, Omen?
Let's oil ourselves up and squeeze into them, Nick.
Boy, I haven't worn this since college. It's been a little weight.
Amazing that it still fits as well as it does.
Salamander, born in the sun-kissed flame, who was it lit your candle, branded you with your name?
Born in the sun-kissed flame. Who was it lit your candle? Branded you with your name.
Lot to dissect there. Let's start at the end. I looked up the etymology of the word salamander.
Okay.
It comes from Old French.
Cool.
Salamandre,
That's just a funny way to say salamander.
which in turn comes from ancient Greek salamandra.
Okay.
So in terms of Ian's question, who branded you with that name, it was the ancient Greeks.
The Greeks, yeah.
And fascinatingly, it's a word which has changed almost not at all
Yeah.
in the 3,000 years that it's been around, 2,000 years that it's been around.
And what does it translate to?
Salamander. It is what it is.
It is what it is. There are no disparate pieces that mean certain things. It is a name for the animal, and that's all it's been. That's cool.
It has occasionally, in more modern times, been applied to other things, such as
Right.
kiln ovens and
The cooking implement in a commercial kitchen that is basically just a heavy-duty broiler. They call it a salamander because you drop it under and it broils and cooks the top portion very quickly. You'll throw a French onion soup under there to melt the cheese in 15 seconds.
yeah, that's nice.
Nice melty cheese on my French onion soup.
I want to pull some quotes from ancient history.
Of course you do.
Pliny the Elder, your friend and mine, describes the salamander as an animal like a lizard in shape and with a body speckled all over. It never comes out, except during heavy showers, and goes away the moment the weather becomes clear. Now that, you might think, is a pretty...
Fairly accurate, non-mythological.
Yeah.
Pliny got that much right.
He also goes on to say...
It eats whole cows and spreads fire across the land.
Pretty much, yeah. That it's so poisonous that a single salamander, by twining around a tree, could poison all the fruit and kill any who drank water from a well into which the salamander had fallen.
Yeah, I wonder where that came from. Cousin of a cousin.
Well, they do have a certain level of toxicity.
Right. But is it just writing for excitement at that point?
It's classic Pliny the Elder exaggerating everything.
Yeah. He was known for his hyperbole.
He really was. One theory that I'm seeing proposed is that the association with fire and the salamander came because the many species of salamander hibernate in rotting logs and, between the bark and wood of a log. And so if you brought those logs in and put them in your fireplace and let them on fire, you might see a salamander escaping,
Sure.
and in, not having the benefits of modern science, you might suppose that it was spontaneously generated by the flame.
Right, yeah. A lot like they thought that flies were just spontaneously created by corpses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And that Instagirls are spontaneously created by Starbucks.
Yep. Yeah, that happens. That happens.
That is true.
Pliny was the first one to say that, and by golly, was he right.
He got one thing correct. Leonardo da Vinci, also our good friend, wrote on the salamander, "This has no digestive organs and gets no food but from the fire, in which it constantly renews its scaly skin. The salamander, which renews its scaly skin in the fire for virtue."
What?
Leonardo da Vinci, bro.
Okay. All right. I'll take it, Leo. Thank you. So this first stanza,
Oh, yes, getting back to the song.
it's getting back to the song. So this first stanza is seemingly about the amphibian.
And referencing some of the classic mythical concepts of this creature.
Right.
Born in the sun-kissed flame.
Yep. Who was it? Lit your candle, branded you with your name. Lit your candle meaning created your myth, maybe?
Yeah, I like that interpretation. Also, just another association with fire.
Right, yes.
But yeah, who lit the flame of your flaminess? Who if a salamander is an ever-burning flame, who started it? What is the
Right.
origin of fire itself? It's very elemental.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit chicken in the egg, I suppose.
Little salamander in the flame.
Salamander in the flame. However, stanza 2 leads me to believe this is allegorical.
I see you walking by my window in your Kensington haze. Salamander, burn for me, and I'll burn for you.
I see you walking by my window in your Kensington haze. Salamander, 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 for me, I'll burn for you.
Kensington is an affluent district in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea in west central London.
How close is that to the Mews?
Oh, to Baker Street?
To the Baker Street Mews, yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Let me see.
Geography of London. London is a very ancient city. Boadicea burned it down. The Romans built it back up.
It's about an hour walk, it looks like.
Okay, so not very close.
No. You can pass through Kensington Gardens. That's nice. That's pretty.
I have done, and it's lovely.
Through Hyde Park, yeah.
So what is the window? I see you walking by my window in your Kensington haze. Or, is it?
You got
Is
it?
it that because, okay, I'm going out on a limb here, Nick.
Let's do it.
Kensington Gardens is a big old open green space.
Yeah.
It will get foggy more readily than other parts of London due to the proliferation of grasses and natural spaces. Therefore, is a Kensington haze, a fog, as one might see in Kensington, which could be anywhere in London at all. For instance, at Baker Street.
I mean, foggy London town is a relatively common phrase.
Yes, although some of that refers to the pollution from the Industrial Revolution.
Right, yeah. Yeah, but England is rainy. England is foggy, is hazy at times.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I think my thought is it's either climatological or what's the meteorological. So it's either meteorological or the salamander is a woman walking by. And she's in her Kensington haze because she's out buying stuff along the Kensington shop. She's not looking in all of the windows. She's kind of in her own world.
She's Kensingtoning.
She's Kensingtonian. And she's walking by and he spots her. And he's saying
to himself, I wish I was a cake man, Jimmy.
You talk about my daughter? He's saying to himself, but he's addressing this woman walking by, this
Yes.
salamander. You burn for me, I'll burn for you. I've got the fire in me for you if you can return the favor.
So this is a song of desire, a song of the deep flame of desire which burns from afar at the sight of a beautiful creature.
If it's not about a literal salamander, that is how I'm interpreting it. Yeah.
Could it not be both? Could it not be describing a romantic attraction for an actual salamander?
I mean, I suppose it could. Ian was ahead of his time.
And he was an amphibiophile.
The hardest thing to believe about that, though, is him seeing a salamander walk by his window in Kensington. Unless he's in the gardens, then he may see them because there's little bodies of water there.
Well, then what's the window doing?
Exactly.
Bring it along?
Exactly. His porta window.
I carry this around with me to protect me from the eyes of others. Oh, look, a salamander.
He pulls up the shade. Shade not included.
Getting hot in here. I better wind down the window. Yeah, it's not the most clear song for me.
No.
I for me, you know, I don't know that there's really a literal interpretation to be had here. I think it is more interpretive and more maybe. I'm thinking back to the song that we talked about a while ago. Was it Saucity? I forget. There was a song about that we decided was about the muse. You know, not Baker Street Muse, but you know, inspiration. How do you find inspiration? How do you lose it?
Mm-hmm. It might be Saucity, yeah.
And for me, I wonder if this is a little bit like, you know, is the salamander his burning drive and passion? He doesn't know where it came from.
Oh, okay.
He finds inspiration in his town of London.
Mm-hmm.
The world burns for him, and so he has to burn by singing about it. I wonder if, you know, there's something more deeply metaphorical here.
I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there absolutely is. However, I do want to bring us back to the world that is too old to rock and roll.
I was just thinking about that.
This is, presumably because it's on this album, this is part of the stage show somewhere.
Well, you know what happens when you presume, Nick. You make a prune out of you and me.
I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry.
I think that this could be part of the stage show, and we could talk about that, and we will. But I also think that it could just be a random piece
That's also possible.
that made it onto the album.
Yep, it's also possible. Sure.
And it could even be that the music existed, and then Ian was like, "Oh, maybe I should put some lyrics to it. Here's a random stanza I found after drinking a bad bottle of grappa
Yeah, he woke up in a haze and found it, and he's like, "This'll fit in here."
in a Kensington haze."
The classic Kensington haze. Is this an introduction of a love interest further down the line in the story?
It could be.
It's early enough in the play that it could be.
It reminds me, if it were going to be that, it reminds me a little bit of the description which D'Artagnan gives of Milady in The Three Musketeers. He's inexorably drawn and frightened of her, drawn toward and frightened of her. And she was branded on the shoulder with a fleur-de-lis, which is sort of a fire thing.
There you go.
Okay.
That's it. Solved it.
Tune into our other podcast, Discuss Dumas to Me, where we will just fangirl over the works of French writer Alexander Dumas.
So it's going to be one of those solo podcasts, huh?
Yep. I just need you to listen.
Yep, I'll be here.
So, Nick, anything else about Salamander?
I don't think so. I think I've said my piece. I've thrown in my ideas and how it'll fit in. And really, it's musically, it's simple. Lyrically, it's less simple, particularly because Quiz Kid and Crazed Institution felt so right to the point. And they were some of the least veiled songs, the least Kensington hazy songs.
Yeah, they followed a clear narrative.
That now this is a bit of a kind of a shock to the system to get back into what we're accustomed to with Ian. That being said, I mean, I like the song a lot.
I think we should conclude the discussion of this song with a excerpt from a letter from the 12th century writer Prester John, who says, "Our realm yields the worm known as the salamander. Salamanders live in fire and make cocoons, which our court ladies spin and use to weave cloths and garments. To wash and clean these fabrics, they throw them into the flames.
When he says a worm, is it WYRM?
No, the regular conventional spelling of worm.
Oh, okay. Because WYRM is like the spelling for a dragon. A dragon is a worm.
Right. I think he was talking about silkworms.
Oh, that makes sense too.
Yeah, throwing your silk hand-woven garments into the fire to clean them,
Not a good idea.
not recommended unless you have an extraordinarily expendable clothing budget.
Yeah, right. If your silk budget, you got to spend it or you lose it, by all means,
Yeah,
go
throw
for
it in the fire.
if the government has a silk budget, that makes sense. I get it.
So, Nick,
Omen.
what do we have the pleasure of talking Tull about next week?
Next week, it feels like we're going to be getting back a little more logically into the story. It is the fourth track off of side A from Too Old to Rock and Roll. It is Taxi Grab.
Love it. Love that song.
Do you really?
I'm very, very excited about that one.
Looking at the list coming up, I'm looking forward to a lot of them.
Until next week, there is a mysterious fabric which can protect us from the flames of obscurity. It is harvested from the sky salamanders known as stars. Weave us a review made of 5 of those stars, and we will wrap ourselves in it to protect ourselves.
Until next week, I am Nick McGill.
I am Omen Sade,
We are Feckless Momes.
and this is Talk Tull to Me.
Master Caxton, would you please expound upon that creature, that mystery known as the salamander?
Gather close. My years of waning come to an end. I must pass on the secrets. You see, Pope Alexander III had a tunic which he valued highly. This salamander beareth wool, of which is made a cloth and girdles that may not be burned in fire.
Oh.
I have several times put salamander hair in the fire and made it red hot.
Oh.
And after taking it out, which being cold, yet remained perfect wool.
My.
My son, gather closely more. I have one more secret to give ye.
Do tell.
From the Emperor of India, I once have heard him say that Talk Tull to Me is a proud member of the Feckless Momes Audio Network.
Your words have not fallen on deaf ears, Father.